That is... Well, we've got Game 3 done. Superstars now 1 game away from being able to close this out versus Lag Force. That would be monumental for them when we talk about staying out of the Crucible.
Yeah, mainly off the head-to-head dynamic, right? Getting that double win, knowing you win the head-to-head, and it immediately, suddenly against Niantic, or excuse me, Lag Force, it drastically increases the chances that they will be that team, or at least more that Superstars is not one of the 3.
Well, game number 4 is going to take place on Warhead Junction, chosen by Superstars. Lag Force, losing the last game, is chosen to be first pick. What can you say about Warhead Junction? NA on Warhead Junction. Get a boss,
get a core,
win the game.
Illidan. We haven't seen it, though, since the Western Eastern Clash. We have seen no team take us to Warhead Junction, I believe. I'm not crazy off that assumption. And if that is the case, we have not seen whether or not... Because Illidan's dead in NA, right? Like, he's not dead, but he... Compared to the equal priority that he displayed beforehand, he is significantly less
Spoiler alert.
Than he was. And so now, does he still see play on Warhead Junction? Because let's be honest here, he essentially catered towards the thought process that all of North America had, which means early bosses, because he's one of the few heroes that can do that. But more importantly, early cores, one of the few that can do that. We talked about Chen in the last game. It doesn't work the same way. He tanks the damage. He doesn't do the damages properly enough to be able to replace that role. Immediate
no thank you to the Lost Vikings. Greymane is another possible hero for trying to make sure that you can do that early damage to the bosses.
Avatar removed for a big map like this. It's a smart, safe play from Superstars. Lag Force are going to bust out the Tassadar. Got to consider a Tassadar Tracer on a map this large. Also, they're not great, but they aren't terrible at taking the bosses early on themselves, just for the survivability and trading off the damage into that Tracer, eat a shield, heal herself back up, and then just free damage left and right. But the Falstad Dahaka, double global, all the way across the sky for Superstars.
Well, I hope it was worth it, Lag Force, to get your Tassadar, because Superstars now have Dahaka and Falstad. Yeah, Falstad won't have a ton of fun with that Tracer.
I want Big E just going pew, 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 pew this whole game. I believe in it. Mainly I want Big E because whenever we played Tracer in the past, it stood out way more than everybody else. It's not like a modern day version of Lag Force. Every time I see any roster big impacts on, if there's Task Tracer, give it to me. He's very, very effective on the hero. If they don't go in that direction, again, I think Illidan makes the most sense. Illidan makes maybe a bit more sense than he would have before, even more so considering the lane mismatch into Dahaka, Falstad. You need to be able to match the globals. It's screaming.
Haven't seen BK play it yet.
I'd be willing to say if it's that impactful for Lag Force, they'd be willing to roll swap Zuna back over to it, because Zuna has played it. Said to go with the Tracer, and then the Zag!
Zag is back! Nice!
Oh, man. Well...
I think that'll be iDream's Tracer, though.
I know. Do we want to talk about...
the Zagara in the room?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the situation that this kind of unfolds? Honestly, it probably is more appropriate for the game. I feel like it's a little too long to be talking about these picks and then talk about it. In general, though, it doesn't do what Task Tracer want to do. It doesn't do what Warhead Junction is known to promote. In all cases, the Zag just feels flat wonky right now. Other than, obviously, that they've busted it out one time in a map where it has shown to some level of work.
Yeah.
Or success in the past. What are you laughing at so heavy?
Nothing.
Give it to me. What is it?
Well, the global's out of the bag. Zagara's been taken for Lag Force. There's no banning of that. Now it comes down to the support and the main warrior. They ban ETC so they don't have stage dive. They ban a support. Ban a noob.
The Anub Barak ban, I mean, it's like Anub is very powerful, obviously. It's just really interesting because he's kind of been mixing priorities since the Western and Eastern Clash. He's also been less prioritized for Lag Force. It feels like a little bit less than some of the other warriors across the board. They have ran it, but Murden's kind of been Zuna's like hot in all cases that he can get it.
His bread and butter.
For Lag Force, what ban stands up? Brightwing if you're really afraid of globals. You have Tracer on your team. You don't want to be global to death. But, I mean, it's not a ban where I go, please ban this or there's no chance. It's just more of like a, is that something you don't want to deal with? If so, get rid of it. They take away the Genji.
So, does Superstars get Brightwing here? Is there any chance for Lag Force to get it if Superstars don't take it? They already have Tassadar. Phase shift on top of Tracer, she's there. Tassadar's there too. All of a sudden you have a man advantage.
I think there's an argument where Lag Force takes it. I think there's an argument for both sides. Better one for Lag Force and a pretty weak counter argument as to why you can get baited into picking the Brightwing for Superstars because of that Task Tracer on the other end. Is if you get that triple global, yes, it will have a bit of side soak, but she doesn't do anything to stop the Zag. Dahaka doesn't do anything to stop the Zag. Only Falstad is the one who can match that. So unless you're going to gank the Zag over and over again with the Brightwing TP and the Falstad being the one that baits it, it doesn't gain much immediate value to stop some of the problems elsewhere. So you shouldn't be getting it for the global. You should only get it off of is the hard crowd control into Tracer absolutely needed. And so right now it feels like they're disagreeing because I doubt this is going to be a double support now with the Garrosh, Dahaka, Falstad, and now Rhaegar picked up in the main support role.
Figure out who that last damage is soon. But for Lag Force, they get Arthas. What's Tomster going to play?
Rhaegar removed. Uther's still up, but he hasn't been that high a priority. Into Tracer, you kind of like having, especially a Task Tracer. Uther isn't maybe 10 out of 10 there. He isn't a bad pick by any means, but I wouldn't mind. The Brightwing, I wouldn't mind, or Malfurion. I don't want to see a Stukov, though. I feel like it'll be a lot less likely to be successful here in this game.
First Brightwing we're seeing from Tomster.
A lot of really cool tools and ways to approach the map for Warhead Junction now with that kind of draft on Lag Force.
Yeah, it's a very cool draft. And the final pick for Superstars.
I really hope it's still Illidan. I know that it's very unlikely that's the case, but my heart and soul here just goes, I want you to bully at the global level, and
I think it could be, but it's not. Just because they have 3 melee players with Yoda, they are very flexible in what they could play, but they get Cassia here instead.
Cassia is also a little peculiar, don't you feel?
Yeah, well, Avoidance will help with Tracer's auto attacks as long as she's moving. She's obviously got the blinds. Defend in and do damage. Ball Lightning, I guess if the grouping of, like if you've got Brightwing who comes in on top of Tracer too, and then Arthas is there.
My concern throughout this game is that Falstad is going to be dead a lot. Like, just a lot. Granted, it's Hosty, I'm assuming, on the Falstad, and Hosty is one of the best Falstads we have in NA. But how I see this playing out, we talked about all the opportunities to match the Zag. If she goes into the Nidus network, what's going to happen? She's going to be a problem. Somebody has to answer. Again, you don't want to put the others ones there, so eventually it's going to be Falstad. Somebody collapses, Brightwing TPs, and Task Tracer's there. Someone's dying. Like, it's a very easy collapse composition and very easy to bait across the board by Lag Force. I mean, at this point, I feel like Superstars has proven I give them a slight edge in terms of overall skill and coordination going across the board here. But this is one of those moments where Lag Force has enough going on with their comp that I feel like they can play it very well and punish a lot of easy transitions and expected rotations out of Superstars.
Man, it's really hard to judge right now all of NA. But I feel like it's always like that at the beginning of a part, right? Where we have that. But you look at how Lag Force looked versus Space Station, and then how Space Station looked versus Even in Death, but then how Superstars has been looking versus Lag Force so far in the series. And it's like, do you want this? Because I don't know what to do with
Doesn't have any value to me, boys. You are very correct, which is why I feel like I've talked so much about consistency, not only for development, but also when it comes to like the performances that we have here. It's like, well, you know, I've seen this many games by this team with this many common trends, and if they run it 99% of the time, it just oftentimes turns out this is the 1% where they're just not playing according to whatever angle they wanted into this game. It feels like we don't have much, and I feel like it starts with our roles. Right? We are the first region to be overly not true. We are the first region not forced into a situation. We volunteer to be such high into our kind of role swapping and the lack of stability with even the characters we're playing on our own team.
Yeah,
China was the other region, for anybody wondering.
Let's get into the game and see how this works out. Can Superstars Global Comp get the win, or will we see Zagara and Tracer take us to game number 5?
So the thing with the Zagara and the rest of the 4-man that I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, I still like how Lag Force could be able to play this out in the later stages of the game, especially with that counter collapse like I was talking about. But it's a 4-man with a very all-in, immediate intent to be able to win a team fight. What is that? That's not going to be, that's going to be Yoda.
Yoda on Falstad.
We have Hosi on the Cassia.
That happened one other time at the end of part 1. And I don't remember the comp that led them into that. If you give me a second, I can look it up, though.
That's interesting.
You keep going on your Zagara tangent.
Oh, okay. So, well, it's just like they're running a 1-4, but the 4-man composition wants to be effective within half a second. And then it needs to be able to get that kill because of the lack of supporting in the long run, the pulse bomb entrance. It's just standard 1-4 style composition, but the problem is that Zag's laning mismatch is going to draw out the Falstad, and then oftentimes if they aren't getting that kill immediately, there's going to be a huge amount of rebuttal coming out from the Superstars comp. They will be able to just turn those fights pretty effectively and reliably. So it's going to be on the members of Lag Force to, when they do abuse their compositional strengths, they can't mess it up, or it's going to be a pretty proper and effective rebuttal from Superstars. So
the last time that we saw Superstars have Yoda playing Falstad over Hosty, it ended up being that Yoda was solo laning top on Dragonshire, and that makes me immediately think that Hosty is wanting to be more with the 3-man team. Yoda is a very successful solo laner. He was like that for a long time, playing that both for Superstars and for Roll20. So in this case, just making sure that they're on the role that they feel more confident in and doing what is the intention for that hero.
So another thing to look at when it comes to the talents and kind of interesting things happen in this game is we still see Bane lane focus on a big map with no other than boss racing early game, again with the kill potential onto the Illidan, because this means by taking the volatile acid, she's losing out on Infest, which is legitimately the sole reason you take Nidus Network Zagara. That talent is so powerful on those backliners whenever she got changed with the Infest overall, that was the justification and thought process going into it. So I feel like it's either they're going to hyper-focus onto the bosses in the earlier stage and rely on that, but if you go in that direction, the Nidus payoff later on, it's not going to add up as effectively on maps like BOE or on that of Braxis Holdout like we've seen Gale Force display.
Sneaky Iacona shoots off the first nuke of the game, dealing damage in one of the boss lanes. iDream not using his just yet, but there was a drag possibility. So just being patient, waiting that out. Once Airho used the drag, backed up, then he could drop that.
Flip on the Zuna. Don't think he's going to be able to make it out here, even with the Holly Blast, unless that teleport from Brightwing's enough. The drag brings him back in, and he kites himself away. But maybe Tomster is the victim at the end of the day. Passive healing keeps him right on up. Look at that, big impact coming in. Gives the gives him the pulse bomb, and walks right away.
Well done from Lagaf there. Everything from Tomster coming in, body blocking, making sure to put the poly on Falstad to follow up from the damage there, then getting out himself, then Biggie coming in, dropping Pulse Bomb to get first blood for his team. Unfortunately, it'll be followed up rather quickly with a kill for Superstars.
I'm just excited that Big Impact is on Tracer. I mean, I said it before, but I'm saying it again here because this guy really can stand out on this hero. He can very good job at understanding the ins and outs of the interactions with everybody and making sure that finds his team the upper edge here. And Yoda is probably going to be a good friend to Big Impact. Friend or enemy, I feel like, you know, is maybe not the proper word here, but they're going to be close by each other all throughout this game.
Superstars sieging for a long time with their Cassia tri-lane in the bottom with the Mercenary Camp 2. Being chased away finally from a lot of collapse from Lag Force. And they recognize it in time to get back. They've already done the damage. There is no mule for Lag Force, so all of that will be permanent damage. But also sets them up nicely for that bottom boss. They get an opportunity to go after that.
Howling Blast lands on Iacona. Pulse Bomb's going to land too. The healing is already going to be distributed, so he's got nothing left. But Zuna falling pretty low after that kill onto Iacona. He kites his way on out. Daihu doesn't have enough armor built up for that one. He goes down. And Yoda is getting chased, forces the barrel roll. Big Impact, gives the pew-pew. Superstars might want to, you know, find a way to be able to deal with this here because this is kind of escalating a little bit too fast for Warhead. This is a map where we oftentimes, outside of, again, huge misplays, you assume it's going to be even up into the 10 mark, then things happen. But a full level lead, pre-10, Lag Force has got to be very satisfied with themselves.
Now that I look at Lag Force's composition, there are a lot of ways to effectively deal with the Garrosh. You had mentioned Quantum Spike and the percent health damage that it does at 10%. But there's also at 13, Shattering Armor for Arthas, or Shattered Armor to reduce the armor somewhat. There's also Criterize possibilities for Brightwing, although in general, you would have to make sure that you're using your Brightwing or your Polymorph then for that, which may leave you a little more vulnerable to things like Tahaka stalking in. But even still, lots of different ways of dealing with the Garrosh. And the members and the way that LagF have been playing around these pulls this game so far, they've been dealing with it well too. That's the second time we've seen people make sure that they're within the area where you don't get pulled and then retreat after it.
Brightwing teleport is going to happen here. Big impact goes in onto Yoda, finds the bird. The flip is not going to be followed up by here, but Hosty on the wrong side of these lines. Big impact now body blocking on this Tracer. Garrosh is going to be going down. Warhead just spawned on the top half of the map. And we also have a boss up there. Well, there's still 2 warheads in the hands. As I say that, I guess not any longer. This keep is going to take a lot of damage here, Gilly.
Yeah, Lag Force are death-balling their way to success to game number 5, bringing down a keep quickly. There's not even a gust yet to push back Lag Force, and with the mercenary camp behind them, they can make sure to get the keep and step right on out. Boss hasn't been taken there. Still a warhead up to. A lot of different places where Lag Force could rotate. There's some structures if they don't feel like they can end the game very quickly. They're going to get mercenary camp here. Cigar is starting to head up, making it look like there is the possibility that they want to go for that boss. But Superstars almost have heroic abilities, and they've all respawned.
The big thing, too, to talk about is the fact that we do see is Zagara wandering outward beyond her traditional maps and landing on Warhead, and she's winning in the earlier stages, which suddenly means she is going to be a lot harder for the members of Superstars to be able to deal with. Again, we talked about how many times Falstad is going to have to be the one to match that, and Big Impact has constantly made sure he has to second-guess every step he takes onto this map. But with the top boss started, Superstars is looking to get the invade. When it comes to boss control, we have Gust, no Emerald Wind, so this is going to be a huge advantage for Superstars, but they burnt it!
Gust was already used!
Daihu needs to keep himself alive if they want to stand a chance. Ancestral is going to be forced. Big Impact gets the Pulse Bomb out. It's dodged by Urho with that burrow. The boss is now going to be the focus, but no boss control exists for Superstars.
Nuke down. Superstars are at least going to use the nuke there if they can to get the time on the point. They do get on the point, but so low. Tahak is dead. So is Tracer. Zuna very low. Doesn't have Army of the Dead. The boss has been claimed. 3 kills for the 2. Garrosh goes down, making that a 4-for-2 trade, but Superstars steal the boss.
Superstars steal the boss, and it's going to be easy to clean up now for the members of Lag Force. What a huge risk taken for both sides. And I feel like Superstars, even though they lost the majority of the members, it's a bit of a moral victory in the fact that they don't have that boss sieging up towards that keepless top lane. It's not game 100%, but it is a lot of damage on your core that you do not want to take for free, and it's not like we have the opportunity of Mule on their kind of composition.
Yeah, it gives them time to catch up. Make sure that they are in a position to contest the next nuke phase, get back on the board, start soaking up, getting to 13, finding another place where they can get an even fight. But they need to do so cautiously. They have fallen victim to so many picks from Tracer and Tassadar, from Brightwing shifting in the early game, and that puts them at a severe disadvantage. They may even have to give up this bottom boss just to make sure that they can get caught back up and not fall further behind.
If that Gust wasn't used, the boss fight would have gone a lot better for Superstars. There's almost 0 boss control to be afraid of on the side of Lag Force. The only thing you should be afraid of is obviously kill potential by Tracer. Poking around is a problem. And then Army of the Dead over the long fights can be a bit of a concern. Talking about Army of the Dead, Arthas is going to have to use his here up on mid. It's a cooldown that it looks like the members of Superstars are willing to take, but it's not like there was no punishment. Big Impact found themselves another Falstad on the bottom.
Superstars want to be able to keep their tri-lane together of the Rhaegar, the Cassia, and the Garrosh. Gives them kill potential if Garrosh gets the pull and the flip. But when it was on Arthas, yes, they forced Army of the Dead, and that's great. But they still have these 2 globals, and Falstad keeps going down to Lag Force. They have to be, if they're going to continue to do a 1-3-1, making sure they use the double globals to catch back up, they've got to be safe.
Daihu goes brush dot coming in from Urho. Can he find anyone? BK doing a good job kiting around, using that creep for that mobility bonus. Warhead was used on bottom. Now Tracer's looking to join in the fight. Keep in mind, Superstars is running away before Tracer's even there to join this skirmish. But they do have the 13s, so they have a chance.
We're using Yoda to try to start getting the Warhead. That's going to be Iacona. The zoning's nice.
Looks like it's going to be no good interrupt. Is it the last one, though? Nobody? No, Zuna is going to be able to get it down below. Somebody should have been checking that flank. That's the third interrupt he's had from that angle.
Yeah, now Tassadar could go back in for another interrupt. They've got Biggie there, too. Gets the pulse bomb, and Rhaegar's eliminated at the start of this fight. Dahiu's low, using the taunt. It's not enough to keep him alive. Hosty goes down just as the gust is used. 3 kills.
Big impact Tracer. Just one shot nerds left and right throughout this entire game. That Igunner didn't have an opportunity to survive there. Keep in mind, out of the 14 kills in this game, Tracer has been a part of 13 of them, and 9 from her alone. It's just now it's with the split, the 1-3-1 you were talking about, committed to the 1-4 of Lag Force. The few ganks that Superstars did attempt in the early game, Lag Force was there to punish, as we were talking about. Now, the strategy to be able to recover out of the members of Superstars is just not available. Down the 16, down the keep up on top. They need an absolute miracle.
Even if they protect Falstad, Iacona is just as juicy of a target for Tracer too. They're just not able to keep everybody alive. And I'm trying to figure out where that helps. They've got Earth Shield for a little bit extra shielding.
I feel like the biggest thing is either you have to all-in Zuna and kill him, or focus on Zagara. It's one of the two, because Tassadar and Tracer, with the composition that you have, again, without a very unreasonable positional mistake, are never going down. Arthas is vulnerable, but hard, so you want to really commit that many resources. Brightwing, you'd say the case, but she's blink here with Ice Block. She shouldn't go down unless she makes a mistake, so the only person you have is Zagara.
Look at the amount of pressure Yoda was starting to back. Comes back in.
Oh,
they need
look
his
at
help
Dahiu,
with the boss.
dude. Falls so low after that boss.
Pulse bomb.
Gets the Ancestral, though, so he's going to keep himself alive. Gust is forced, drag back onto Big Impact. It brings him in a terrible spot after that recall, and Hosty comes in with the fend.
But to his death, he's already down now. There's into the fray, helping Yoda get back, but it costs Garrosh his life. He dies, the boss is now on the core and bringing down the shield as Superstars lose a 3rd member.
The shielding gone onto the core. Lag Force find themselves this 4th game. And they are going to take us now to game number 5 against Superstars. I don't mean to be that guy, but we were once in game number 2 of this series on Team of the Spider Queen, and I came up with the theory that the team that ends up picking the map is always the one to lose it, and you said you dread. That could never be the case. That is just idiotic. I don't think I
said that at all.
To expect that. And here we are at game number 4, Gilly, and the team who's chosen the map has lost.
It's weird how I don't remember saying that. I feel like maybe you're gonna have to go back and like
all these
do
people
some
are gonna
fancy schmancy editing.
They're gonna go look at the clip and they're gonna be like, "Look at Gilly saying this out loud."
I don't think it happened.
Gilly, you forget that sometimes everything we say is recorded. It's very apparent that you said that to me earlier.
I'm gonna have to go check. We're going to a commercial break so I can go check the whether or not he's right. We'll see you for game 5 right after this.